Go live.
You did it. All right.
We're live. It's
get you on Mimo and mute Discord.
It's a miracle.
It worked.
Places everyone. Ooh, nice, Alan. Good pull.
Yeah.
Nice GIF work. All right. Well, as soon as Alan gives me the heads up, the A-OK, it will be time for roll call. But of course, you know, we have rules. Come on, Alan. Bring it on. Here
Alan,
we go.
we need it.
There we go. Roll call. Now we're ready. I have no wheels or Rick tonight. All right. Well, we'll try to wheel along without them. We've got Alan. It's Alan's birthday. Happy birthday, Alan. We got Kevin and Frank and Jill and Lindsay, the daughter, John, Rose, Mike, Sandy, and Michael West Bay. Anybody in the... what are you doing? You typing like a...
Furiously.
Like this.
Like a madman.
Wonder who Recovering Phoenix is in the sidebar. Oh, a Nuclear John. We got a pair of Johns.
Pair of Johns, yeah. It's almost as good as a pair of Jacks.
Good. All right. We've got a lot of show here today, so I should probably just kick in and get
really
started.
big shoe.
Oh, I didn't. This one light isn't coming on by itself anymore. My key light air is supposed to come on with my automation, but it does not.
I see the is it Grugo or Grugu? Baby and Baby Yoda and Super Miniature Yoda are lounging on Sandy's pillow.
Yes, they are. I'm delayed. That's delayed.
Huh, it's not delayed. Not delayed here.
Aluminum 44 millimeter. Nice. I lost internet for a day. Couldn't remember how any of my lights worked. Jill said. It's not Sandy's pillow.
It's yours. Yes.
Well, that's nice. All right. Well, I think I am ready to start recording here. Actually, let me double check and make sure I'm on mic correctly. Check Hindenburg. That looks good. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast. Hi, this is Allison. Yep, that looks good. Music's a little loud. End workout. Yes, I should end that workout. That was cheating. Okay. Oh, I hit save. That means it's going to ask me where I want to save. All right. Steve looks like he's muted himself. Here we go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, August 29th, 2021, and this is show number 851. Well, we just had a glorious weekend playing with our grandchildren, made possible by Alistair Jenks and Jill from the North Woods. Back when we went to Montana for a week and I asked for contributions, Alistair actually created 3 blog posts and 3 audio recordings for us, and I've been saving the last and longest one for a week when I needed help. Jill from the North Woods accepted a special assignment from me to test out a new capability that Apple has created for Windows users. I've got a couple of articles of my own in here, so we should have a grand show. Aye. That was fun having you do a special assignment. I like it. All right.
I assume Clippy's there in honor of Windows?
Yeah, must be.
Oh, looks like your links are working too. Excellent.
They are. It's a miracle. By the way, I rebooted yesterday. It's not like this was an old boot up. All right. Here we go. Save, and there's a chapter mark. Thank you, Kevin. On this week's Chit Chat Across the Pond, I've got Bodie Grimm on the show. Along with being a podcaster who specializes in the news about electric vehicles, on his show, The Kilowatt Podcast, Bodie is also a firefighter and engineer on a ladder truck. He's in a unique position to answer some of my questions about fires in internal combustion vehicles versus fires in electric vehicles. We also talked about the new investigation by the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration into 11 reported accidents where Teslas ran into emergency vehicles. Bodhi is super knowledgeable about electric vehicles and fires, and so it's really relevant to our whole conversation. And I got to tell you, he's an awful lot of fun. I had a blast recording this episode with him, and you can find this week's episode of Chit Chat Across the Pond in your podcatcher of choice under Chit Chat Across the Pond Light. All right. Oh, you like that one, Sandy? Yeah, isn't he great? He's the nicest guy, too. He's just so sweet.
Very,
I just
very
noticed
good
my
gentleman.
explanation didn't even mention that it was about EV fires, too.
No.
It only says it's...
You said EV and
I did.
internal combustion.
I did. I threw it in, but in the text it doesn't say that. I winged it. Get it?
Wing woman.
Man. All right. I am going to let's see, I'm going to do a chapter mark here. I didn't hear that's just real quiet. I must have my system sounds down. Let me see. Yeah. Oh, no, it's my system output. That's what's down low. There we go. I can just barely hear it going. All right. I'm going to record just a little bit here. Well, Alistair's been waiting a long time to tell us this story, so let's get started with Alistair Jenks. And I'm going to take Alistair and stick him up here. Right about there. Let's see how that sounds. Started with Alistair Jenks.
Back in March, I took part in Chit Chat Across the Pond Light 675 about working from home, along with Alison and the pod daughter, Lindsay Tondi. We had so much fun discussing our different experiences that there was a whole section of content I had notes for that we just didn't have time to get into. I'd like to cover that now. The topic is non-real-time communication. I think I mentioned in Chit Chat Across the Pond that one of my driving forces for the way I work is being lazy at heart. If I can save people having to bother me, I'll put in the work ahead of time to ensure it is so. Occasionally, I have the opportunity to teach, which is something I really enjoy, but more often there is simply not time, or sometimes no inclination, to properly teach a topic. At these times, I turn to the next best thing, documentation. I used to have an attitude common amongst technical staff. I could either document it or do it. Two events happened that turned me away from that way of thinking, and they happened in the same job and a couple of years apart. It was 1998 and I was working for a large multinational company with my chief focus at the time being the introduction of a new software tool into our development team.
All right, I'm going to have to cut him off. Like I said, it's nice and long.
Buttery smooth, dulcet tones.
Yeah, that voice. All right.
The whole becomes greater than the sum of the parts.
This is fantastic, Alistair. I love everything about this. I'm a big fan of doing documentation myself. And, you talk about somebody right at the end there, you talk about people who think free giving of knowledge is a bad thing. I remember I had a guy working for me who knew a foreign language. English was not his native language. And so he purposely would put the comments in his code in his foreign language so that no one else would ever be able to take over for him. He turned out to be wrong. He was not very good at what he did, and he stopped working for us after a while. So giving of free knowledge was something that I always tried to positively reinforce in my my organization. And it's too bad everybody isn't great at it. And it's really interesting to me that you were able to get so many people to continue to contribute to it and keep that knowledge really lively. So that's really cool. I love this story. Thanks for doing it, Alistair, and letting me have some fun with the grandkids by doing it. All right. I listened to that a long time ago. I was trying to remember what it was about. All right. Oh, I'm still recording. Good thing I didn't say anything bad about Alistair and letting me have some fun with the grandkids by doing it. Okay. I still sound raspy.
That's just compared to Alistair.
No. It didn't go. What did I do wrong? There we go. Operator trouble as always. So in our Slack group, we were talking about some programming stuff. Actually, it's going to be a thing I wrote up in, or actually, yeah, it's going to be the last article I go into here. Mike, I made fun of you guys for doing error checking. I am not good at error checking. I'm not good at thinking up what people might do wrong. I'm just not good at it. My imagination is too narrow. It's like, well, I told them to type a number. Why would they type a zero or type a letter or not type anything or, type sine wave? I never think of those things. So, and I'm really bad at coding error checking too. So I don't know. Just not good at it. That's why I made that comment. All right. So I've got Joplin ready. Going to talk about Joplin. This is going to be a long one. Settle in. All right, here we go. Oh, what the heck? Okay, I'm going to refresh. I've been having trouble with my my website was getting really, really slow for when I was interacting with the WordPress piece of it. And I think I have fixed it, but my changes haven't been coming through. I'm hearing a lot of tapping from you. Do you by chance have that backup drive running, honey?
Yeah, I might. But tapping?
Well, it sounds like you're typing, but I'm looking at you and you don't look like you're typing right now.
Well, it could be me hitting the touchpad, but let me eject that drive.
I sure hope this is the modified one. When you look at Joplin on the web, Steve, does it have the logo?
Yes.
But this isn't the right one. Can you tell the publish date for me? Is it 8/26?
Yes.
Okay. Well, hopefully this is the right one, but I'm not getting the logo. All right. Brother Scan and Cut. Okay. I should stop reading along and do my work here. A couple of weeks ago, Nightwise told us about a fantastic open source cross... Okay, don't try to look away while you do it. A couple of weeks ago, Nightwise told us about a fantastic open source cross-platform notebook app called Joplin. After he told us about it, I raved about it as well. This week, I asked Bart whether he thought it might be the right app for him to replace Evernote. And he said, well, I'm waiting for you to tell me more about it, including, how does it organize notes? When he said that, I realized I had more work to do here. The description of Joplin was from the 30,000-foot view. We talked about how it was open source, how cool it is you can sync through any server you want, including one of your own, and how it runs on every platform, including the command line. But we didn't describe it. So let's rectify that, shall we? Joplin has two distinctly different interfaces. The desktop version, which is built on Electron, is very full-featured. The mobile version is much more limited, but it's still quite capable. I think I mentioned last time that Joplin doesn't take full advantage of the huge screen on the iPad Pro, which is kind of a shame. Because this is an open source project, you can make suggestions in the forum for Joplin, which I actually did on this very subject. On the desktop, you have a 3 or 4 column view, depending on your settings. Actually, I hate working off what I know is not the latest version. I'm going to start by describing the desktop interface, and then I'm going to go into the mobile interface. So on the desktop, you have a 3 or 4 column view, depending on your settings. The left column shows you your notebooks represented by little folder icons. You can add subfolders, and they're shown with a downward chevron, and the folders show the number of items in each folder. When you select a notebook, the second column will show the notes and to-dos in that notebook, so it's kind of a very standard interface. The last column is where you actually write your notes. Joplin uses a version of Markdown, which allows you to create beautiful headings, italics, bold lists, and more. It's super easy to learn. Bart tried for years to convince me that Markdown is awesome, and while I'm still annoyed by some of its limitations, I have to admit it's still pretty cool. Joplin is more than a Markdown editor, though. It's actually a rich text editor that you write in Markdown, because you can mix and match Markdown with embedded images and other document formats. Now, I don't want to do a full Markdown lesson, but for context, let me just give a few examples of how Markdown formatting works. When you're writing in Markdown, you use asterisks for bulleted lists. Underscores on either side of a word make it italics, and hash symbols make headings. This makes Markdown pretty easy to read, unlike writing in HTML, and the rendered version is beautiful. I said that Joplin has 3 or 4 columns. The option of the 4th column is whether you want to view just your Markdown, just your rendered view, or whether you'd like to see both side by side. If you want a more focused writing experience, you can toggle off the sidebar and the notes viewer, giving you just your writing area with just the Markdown, or the Markdown and the rendered view. Now, if you're not a Markdown wizard, the desktop app gives you some standard icons to format as bold and italics and add links, code bullets, checkboxes, headings, and more. So you can use those little icons and it'll insert it for you. If you have an editor you really like, at any time you can right-click on a note and open it in that favorite editor. I think that's really cool. When you close the file in the external editor, without having to save, the note is then updated in Joplin. Like I said, I thought that was pretty slick. Now, if you like the Markdown editor built into Joplin, you're going to go bananas when you see the options available to tailor that experience. In Preferences Markdown, you'll find a list of around 20 installed plugins that will enhance its standard capabilities. I'm definitely not going to go through them all here, but one really weird one caught my eye. The plugin says, Enable Mermaid Diagram Support. Well, hang on now, I certainly want mermaid in my notes, don't you? You know I love a good diagramming application, so I had to investigate what mermaid diagrams were. Turns out Mermaid is an open source diagramming project where you create diagrams using a normal text editor rather than in a GUI where you draw boxes and lines. Creating diagrams with a text editor sounds weird, but so did Markdown when I first heard about it. An example of the syntax for Mermaid is if you write A -- greater than symbol B semicolon, you get a rectangular box with an A in it, followed by a box with a B in it, and an arrow going between them. If you take out the greater than symbol, it's just a straight line with no arrow. With Mermaid, you can create flowcharts, sequence diagrams, class diagrams, Gantt charts, pie charts, and more. I learned just enough to be impressed and amazed that Mermaid even exists, then practiced a little bit inside Joplin and learned that this is too nerdy even for me. I still think it's really amazing. Now, the option to enable Mermaid diagrams is controlled by the desktop app, but once you enable it, the feature is available across all of your mobile devices as well. I am not muted. I am still on my walk, too. Jeez, I told it to stop. Remember? Okay. Nope. Do not disturb, not ping and make more noise.
I did eject that drive, so you shouldn't be hearing that tapping noise if that was it.
Yeah. Let's see. No, I'm still hearing it. Is your fan on?
Fan on my computer?
No, you're like blowing air on your face over towards your mic or anything?
Nope.
Yeah, it sounds like you're going like this. It's not a big deal. It goes away when it's not like the previous noise. So, all right. Let's switch gears to talking about the mobile version of Joplin. Instead of seeing 3 or 4 columns at once, the interface kind of slides in and out so you can't see all of the columns at once. For example, if you're in a notebook, you'll see the list of notes and to-dos inside the notebook. But as soon as you select a note, it will take over the entire screen. You can only view the Markdown or the rendered view, but not both side by side. Now, that makes perfect sense on a phone screen, but I think with a big girl tablet like the iPad Pro, Joplin could easily show us both panes at the same time. Now, it's a little weird to go back and forth between the Markdown and rendered view on the mobile version. If you're in the rendered view, in the bottom right, there's a red circle with a little paper and pencil inside, indicating if you click that, you can edit the note. It totally works. When you tap that icon, you're in the Markdown editor mode. But to get back to the rendered version, there's no corresponding icon. There is a 3-dot menu in the upper right and a downward arrow icon up there too, but neither take you back to the rendered view. In the upper left, you'll see the name of the notebook you're in and a back left arrow. Strangely, it's that back left arrow that gets you back to the rendered view. I say strangely because once you're in the rendered view, that same exact arrow takes you to the list of notebooks. I think it's a really strange UI decision, but once you know how it works, it's not that bad. The mobile app doesn't display the icons for bold and italics and list items like the desktop app does, so you will have to rely on your memory of how to format with Markdown if you rely mostly on mobile. Now let's talk about to-dos, because I mentioned just briefly, though, that Joplin does let you create to-dos. You can create these to-dos within the same notebook where you put your notes. It might work for some people, but seeing a mixture of to-dos and notes in a list of things inside a notebook looks like a hot mess to me. If I start using to-dos in Joplin, I'll probably make separate notebooks for the to-dos within a project. When you create a to-do, it looks pretty much like a regular note, except it has a circle you can click to show you've completed it, and then it gets a strike through in the notes list to designate completion. You can also add an alarm to a to-do, so they work really well with reminders, triggering macOS's notifications when a to-do is due. Boy, it's hard to say to-do is due. Anyway, I don't see a way to add those alarms in the mobile version, though. It's just on the desktop. Within your to-do, you have free-form text, but it's easy to create subtasks because Markdown can create those natively. There's a format, it's a dash space and then an open and close square bracket, and then you put your list item, whatever it is you want to get done. In Joplin, this creates the same little circles in the rendered view, and you can check them off in the rendered view. Near as I can tell, that's the only interaction you can do in the rendered view is check off your little subtasks. When you check them off, the Markdown gets a little X between the square brackets. Since the to-do really is a free-form text area, you can write just like in a normal note, including adding in external documents and things like images. I really like having this much flexibility in a to-do.
Time for a save.
Talking about Selectric typewriters? Yeah. You're talking about Selectric typewriters. I always think of my mother. She typed so fast on a regular typewriter before the Selectric was invented with the little ball that she had to slow down her typing because the typewriter couldn't keep up with her. The Selectric was the first one that could. I really want a typewriter. Actually, I don't want a typewriter. I want to go type on a typewriter for a little while, like just for a day. I taught myself to type when I had pneumonia and the Hong Kong flu when I was in 6th grade. Ooh, I had a brother typewriter too. Not fancy like that. All right, back to work. You'll remember that Bart asked me what options Joplin has for organization. I've already explained the folder structure, but Joplin also supports tagging. This allows you to have a single note tagged for discoverability in different contexts. While one note can only be in one notebook, it can have multiple tags. I read in the forums that people really want to be able to use Boolean searches for tags, such as photography and trains, but it doesn't appear that's been implemented yet. Search works really well to find notes in their content or titles. Tag searches baffled me for a bit until I finally figured out that to search for notes with a given tag, you precede the search with tag : and then the tag name. I mentioned that you can create notebooks within notebooks, so I got kind of curious. How many levels deep can you go with Joplin? You can create sub-notebooks 10 levels deep, but when you try to add one more, it puts the 11th one parallel up at the top level, so it suddenly jumps up to parallel to your first notebook. However, I think this might just be a bug in the UI, because I deleted my top-level notebook that had the 9 sub-notebooks, and that 11th one disappeared as well. So I think it still is a sub-notebook, but it just doesn't look like it. Now, notes can be sorted by their creation date, update. No. Accent on the wrong syllable. Notes can be sorted by their creation date, update date, or by title. You can also create a custom sort in the desktop app by dragging notes up and down. You can create custom sorts in the mobile app. Nope, you're saying it wrong. Notes can be sorted by their creation date or their update date or by their title. You can also create a custom sort in the desktop app by dragging your notes up and down within a notebook. Now, you can't create custom sorts in the mobile app, but you can use a custom sort that you created earlier on the desktop. Notebooks themselves don't have as many sort options. You get sort by title and updated date. I'm not sure if more options are desirable, as I don't know, that would be enough for me. Now, Joplin lets you create links between notes. You select a note, right-click on the title, and choose Copy Markdown Link. Then you can embed that link into any other note for quick access. People in the forums describe using this technique to create their own index of notes on a topic. I think links to other notes would be a really useful thing to do in a to-do item as well. I normally end up typing a lot of info into a to-do, so I remember why I'm doing it, but if I could just link to a note I'd already written on the topic, that would be way simpler. Now, Joplin notebooks and notes sync across all your devices at a specific interval. The most often you can have it sync automatically is every 5 minutes, but you can always hit the sync button to make it go on demand. Now, don't forget that an advantage of Joplin is you get to choose your own sync service. I've been using Dropbox, and I have not had any trouble with syncing. In Joplin, you can drag in images, videos, audio files, PDFs, pretty much anything you want to attach. In the synchronization settings, you can choose whether and how to download attachments to your notes. I set mine to always while I've been testing it, but if you have a giant set of notes with lots of attachments, it might make more sense to set it to manual so you can get them on demand when you click on an attachment. There's a third option called auto, and that means attachments are only downloaded when you open a note. I think it's really cool they've got all that flexibility. Now, one of the great joys of open source projects is when the developer creates an API, that's an application programmable interface, that allows other people to write plugins for their app to extend the capability of the application. In Joplin Preferences on the desktop, there's a link to a GitHub repo with like 30 or 40 plugins for Joplin. A few examples include turning ABC text notation into sheet music, embedding a list of links specified by search inside of a note, exporting a collection of notes to a static site generator, and one that allows you to create favorite notes. Now, if you've been listening to Programming by Stealth, you'll know what a static site generator is. There's one that will add a powerful calculator and one that will run calculations on your tables in Markdown. If you want Joplin to be skinned to look more like a native Mac app, there's a theme plugin to do just that. I think it's really worth taking a look at all of these third-party plugins to see if there's something that would make Joplin even more useful to you. Now, one thing people might be asking is how the notes are stored. One of the reasons I like Keep It from Reinvented Software is that every note is just a file in the Finder. I can right-click on any one of them and choose Show in Finder and get right to it. Joplin is more like other traditional notebook apps with everything stored in an SQLite database. I'm not a database person, so that makes it a little bit opaque to me, but I did read in the forums about someone who accidentally deleted a notebook and emptied the trash, but was able to retrieve it from a backup using SQLite. For my personal needs, a good export method is probably just as good as Show in Finder. Luckily, Joplin has quite a few options on the export front. You can export notes to a Joplin export file or directory. You can export to Markdown. You can export to an HTML file or directory, and you can export to PDF. Exporting a notebook to a Joplin directory works, but I believe the option is most useful for importing back into another Joplin installation. The Joplin directory export format exports all of the notes in their native Markdown format, but the title of each note is this long string of numbers and letters rather than the name of the note itself. Now, if you export a single note as Markdown, the title is preserved. You may remember in my initial few words about Joplin that I said it's really a rich text editor because you can embed images, audio, video, and PDFs and other file formats. Because of this, when you export a note as a Markdown file, you'll also get a resources folder where those attachments will be exported and linked to from within your Markdown document. You get that resources folder whether or not you had any embedded content. You can select more than one note at a time and choose export, but I think there's a bug on this. Instead of revealing a Finder window with Save or Cancel, it shows Open instead in the Finder window. And hitting that Open button does nothing at all to export your multiple notes. I may report this as a bug to the project, but you know what? Reporting bugs is a pretty heavy lift with Joplin. This week, I wrote up an outline for a presentation I was working on using Joplin. I realized when I was finished that I needed a way to move that outline over to a second clean user account I use for my presentations. My notebooks in Joplin would not be available to me from that other account, so I decided to simply export the document I'd created as a PDF, and I could just view it from the other account. Now, I don't know what the heck went wrong, but the PDF export was complete gibberish. By that, I mean a jumble of text-like characters like I've never seen before. I thought it was maybe something borked in that particular note, but I switched to another one and the export there was also gibberish. And my solution was I just brought the note up in Joplin on my iPad and kept it in front of me while I presented from my second user account on the Mac. Being a good net citizen, though, I went off to the Joplin forums to report the bug. There I discovered that bug reporting is not done in the forums. You do that by creating an issue in the GitHub project. Luckily, because of programming by stealth, I'm very good at opening issues in GitHub. But I have to say, man, they made it a lot harder than I would have hoped. I assumed I'd have to do a write-up describing the problem and identifying the OS and Joplin version and throw in a screenshot as an attachment and I'd be done. But they asked for some significantly nerdier stuff. They wanted a debug log, which isn't all that uncommon, but to get the debug log, you had to create a text file in a very deep directory on your system, paste in some glop I didn't understand, and restart the app. This, having that file exist caused the JavaScript console to appear as yet another column in my installation on the Mac, which was actually kind of cool, but I had to watch for errors or warnings and copy that text to a text file to send to them. I mean, it wasn't that hard, but I can't imagine a normal human who just wants to write notes doing this much work to report a bug. After I got all that done and I finished my presentation in the other account, I went back to my main account and guess what? PDF export worked flawlessly. There was nothing wrong with it. So I went back to the GitHub issue and I told them and I moved on and I have no clue why it happened or what fixed it. I was happy, though, to see the lead developer had responded and said she also thought that was pretty curious and didn't understand quite why it would have happened, and to let them know if it ever happened again and try to capture some more information about it. So they were very responsive, which I thought was great, and but I don't know why it happened because it works just fine now. There's nothing wrong with it. So the bottom line is I've not been an Evernote user for a very long time, so I'm not the perfect person to judge whether Joplin is the replacement you might be looking for. But I can tell you that it's incredibly powerful. It's in very active open source development. So if it doesn't do exactly what you want yet, you can influence that development. It's also cross-platform and it's free. Did I mention? It's very, very pretty. You can find Joplin at joplinapp.org. Save. Did I miss
Long
anything?
one.
That was
We've been talking about typewriters and movies, various movies.
Nice.
Janis Joplin. I think John went a
Got in
little
there
astray.
somehow. Has anybody ever seen characters like what the PDF export did? Oh, I just remembered. They asked me a question. They asked me whether I had any weird fonts installed. Fonts, Joplin, GitHub. I've never seen anything like that. Ooh. You can't remember what your first official date was. You think it was probably Tootsie in January 83. Ours was the Goodbye Girl. I asked Steve out on a date. And what did Steve do?
What did I do? I forget.
He invited another couple.
It's a double date.
Not what I was looking for. All right, I'm not going to do a chapter marker, but I did save, so remind me to do the second one, but I got to do the support the show because Jill's coming up. I often mention that the greatest thing about being a Patreon supporter of the podcast is that you're 100% in charge of how much you pledge and how you pledge. At any time, you can reduce your pledge, but you know what else you can do? You can also increase your pledge if you feel so inspired. Jonathan Weinman has been a contributor via Patreon literally for years, and just this week, he decided to become a contributor at an even higher level. This warms my heart, not because not only does it mean he's getting his money's worth, he feels the value has increased, or maybe his ability to donate has increased. In any case, I think Jonathan is a peach. If you'd like to be a peach too, please consider going to podfeed.com/Patreon and choosing a dollar amount to contribute that reflects the value you think you get out of the show. All right, does Jill introduce herself? Let me drop Jill in. I think she does. Jill usually is good about that. Uh-oh.
Don't forget your chapter mark.
I don't see a chapter mark there. Do you?
Mm-mm. Jill's pretty random, she says.
On whether she does or not.
Apparently.
Gonna take too long here. Copy link. Copy. There we go. All right. I think she does, though. Let's see. Tribute that reflects the value you think you get out of the show.
Hi, everyone. This is Jill from the North Woods. As you may know, I use Windows. I like Windows. And there's always interesting conundrums involved when saving some of your data into Apple applications and other pieces of your data that's not in Apple. For example, I have this very nice password list of all the things I use on my phone. It has all the passwords I like to use for various apps and websites I go to, and it's all there in the Apple iCloud keychain. Problem is that it only works for half my life. What about the times when I'm in Windows? How can I actually get those passwords there? Well, now Apple has a solution for people like me. They have an application for iCloud passwords. And what it gives you is this chance to use the passwords that you have from your Apple devices and add more that are on your Windows machine. That way you can have one system in place that'll help you manage your passwords. To talk about the installations, it's pretty straightforward. First of all, you must have a few things. You must have iCloud for Windows application on your Windows machine. That's a requirement for the whole process. You must use a Chrome extension. And the Chrome extension requires, obviously, to have Chrome installed on your machine. And once that's installed, then you can use Microsoft Edge browser instead of Chrome with that same Chrome extension. And you can get the extension from the Windows Store. I noticed from the reviews there were a lot of harsh critics of the extension, saying that it wasn't working, saying that they didn't understand how it worked. For the most part, it seemed to me that people didn't understand how it could work. They either didn't have the iCloud application installed, or they were trying to use a browser that was unsupported. Now that I installed the iCloud password for Windows application, I had all the pieces together. I had the iCloud application, I had Chrome, I had the Chrome extension, and I had the iCloud passwords for Windows installed. Initially, I had to sign into the applications with my Apple ID, which is fine. I had that available. Then I noticed inside my iCloud for Windows application, it now had a box checked that indicated that passwords were part of the integration with iCloud. Now came from the extension part. I opened up Chrome and browsed to a few websites that I know is in my list of iCloud passwords. And from there, I noticed that I could click on a cloud icon. It turned blue when there was a password available for that particular website, or it's grayed out if there is no password for the website. Initially, when you first use iCloud password for Windows, it does ask you for each first session to enter a PIN. The PIN shows up in the lower right-hand corner of the browser. From there, you can enter it into the extension and start to use that password for the website you're trying to log into. It will allow you to look up passwords from the extension until it times out. And then you get a new PIN and you have to enter it again. Then the application asked me to select which saved password for this website did I want to use. In these cases, I only had one password for the website. And as soon as I clicked on it, it added the username and password to the login. Pretty easy. Worked nicely. I also did the same kind of testing with Edge, and it worked just fine, and in exactly the same way. I even joined a brand new service to see how it would save that password, and it did it like a champ. I added in the new login and the new password, and it asked me if I wanted to save those entries. When I did, I checked the iCloud application, and sure enough, that new user login and password were there. I looked on my Apple apps, and they were there as well. So the universal function is great. Now I have those passwords in all the places. I tested it further by going into an application I had by changing a password for a website I used. And sure enough, asked me if I wanted to update my password in the iCloud password application. It updated it, and then I checked, and it updated it everywhere. Great. And looking in the iCloud password app, it's very simple. It has logins, passwords, and websites. There's not a lot of other features that are there, which is expected because there's just not a lot of extra features inside the keychain in general. So it did exactly what I needed it to do. Transfer my usernames and passwords over to a place I could use them on my Windows machine, and then take all the updates I do on my Windows machine and send them back to iCloud so that they're available on my Mac Mini and all my iOS devices. Exactly what I needed. And so thinking about the whole process, I think that it's really useful. First of all, it has end-to-end encryption, just like we would expect it to have for Apple. And the biggest advantage of it is it's free. So getting a secure, free password management system is pretty nice and pretty useful to people. In looking at it compared to 1Password, which is the other application that I use to capture my passwords, it has less features, of course. 1Password can do many, many different things. It has more features for storing documents and other types of identification, and notes and comments and warnings about hacking and warnings about passwords that may have been compromised or seem a bit too easy. That's really nice. Also, these other password applications can help you create a complex password, one that's sufficient for your security. This one just asks you what it is. So there are other things out there that certainly can help you, like Bart's application to create a password, but it will not do this for you. So in conclusion, it's a perfectly great application for getting your iOS and Mac passwords over to Windows where you can use them there. It gives you an opportunity to get passwords that you use on Windows over to your iCloud, which is nice too. And it's free and secure. So while I don't think I'm going to be replacing 1Password soon, I can see a real use for this type of application, either as a supplement to 1Password or for someone who doesn't want to pay for a password application. The iCloud password application for Windows and the iCloud Windows application can both be downloaded from Apple for free. So this is Jill from the Northwoods. Thanks for listening, and let us know what you think about the iCloud password for Windows application.
That was fantastic, Jill.
Very good review.
I
Well
love
done.
that. So I do still have a question. I asked you in the chat, but I don't know that you caught what I was asking. So on the Mac, you can open up iCloud Keychain and you can see your passwords. Is there anything equivalent to that when you do it on Windows? Is there a program or a file or anything you can open?
Just by browser.
Just by browser. I don't understand. I mean, can you see a list of, this site has a username and a password. This site has a username and a password. This site has a username and password. Is there anything like that? You're saying just by browser, but I don't know what that means. Just in each browser, but centralized. Oh, well, I don't follow. That's okay. Firefox.
Oh, you're
has a
saying
password
each
list.
browser has its own stored list of all the sites and their passwords, but they're
That's
not
if you saved-
integrated?
That's nothing to do with iCloud password.
Well,
I'm
apparently
asking about iCloud password specifically. Sounds like it. I heard it didn't, but was just trying to verify. All right, I'm gonna keep going here.
Have you
See,
done
nice, it's
a
about Jill twice?
chapter mark
Save?
here?
Not a chapter mark though. No, I'm not gonna do one because I'm gonna talk to Jill first.
Ah, gotcha.
But remind me in a second. Just that new iCloud password app. So you can see a list of usernames and passwords by. Oh, I guess you had a picture of it. That's stupid. I got you. All right. Big dense.
Be downloaded from Apple for free. So this is Jill from the Northwoods. Thanks for listening, and let us know what you think about the iCloud password for Windows application.
Well, thanks, Jill, especially for accepting this special assignment. As expected, you did a fantastic job explaining it. One of the things I thought about when I first heard Jill's review was she neglected to say iCloud Keychain, and I thought she just didn't know what the proper name was for it, maybe, or something, because she's new to the Mac or whatever. But she's not making any mistakes there. It is called iCloud Passwords for Windows because there is no Keychain application on Windows. So that's why it's called that. So anyway, as always, flawless, and really appreciate having that little peek into how it works for Windows users. So thanks a lot for that. I really, really appreciate it. All right. Now we'll do chapter mark. How do you get on that text expander snippet so fast, Kevin? Just like instantaneously, as soon as I hit stop, it's like boom, it's on the screen. All right, so now this one's gonna be nerdy. And Mike Price had a lot of fun with it. Actually, Mike Price and Tim. Does Tim use his real name? I have to open up. Let's see. Let me do it here. Sorry, a friend of mine that used to work for me got super excited about this and has been doing a bunch of comments, and I don't know whether he used his real name. For some reason, I want to say he did not, but because I want to respect that if he didn't. Nope, he did use his real name. Okay. Okay. Here we go. I am not one of those highly organized, getting things done people with omnifocus tasks and due dates that I actually achieve. I use a hodgepodge of techniques that seem to revolve around my email. I know that makes many of you cringe, but I've got a cool trick that's starting to help me connect relevant emails to my tasks. Let's start with a pretty simple example. We all order a lot of stuff online these days. I don't know about you, but I find myself losing track of what I've ordered, when I've ordered it, where I ordered it from, and when I was supposed to get it, and forget all about even knowing my order number. About a year ago, I started a to-do list that I call Ordered Items, and I did it in Microsoft To Do. That's the love child of Wunderlist. When I order something, I create a new item in To Do, and every item in To Do can have steps within it, reminders, due dates, file attachments, and freeform notes. So let's say I order some IKEA shelves. I create an item in To Do, and then I go to the email confirmation and I copy the information out of it, like the order number and delivery date, so if it never shows up, I can check in on it. Often I need more detail from the email at a later date, and I'd have to hunt through my 70,852 saved emails to find it. It is not an exaggeration, that was an exact number. Anyway, I found a better solution for this, and it's pretty nerdy, which makes me like it even better. It's called deep linking. I don't remember how I discovered the concept, but I learned the super nerdy details about deep linking from a blog post at nshipster.com. I was going to say nshipster.com, but I think it's probably nshipster.com. Anyway, the main thing you need to know is that every email message you receive has a unique message ID associated with it. Given that unique message ID and a bit of formatting, we can create a link to plop in anywhere that, when clicked, will launch the email in Mail.app. The first thing we need to do is tell Mail that we want to be able to see the message ID header when viewing our emails. We only have to do this once. To reveal the message IDs on your emails, open up Mail's Preferences and select the Viewing tab. You'll find an option to show message headers with a drop-down next to it, which probably says Default. Instead, select Custom from the dropdown, and then in the little window that comes up, tap the plus button and then type message-ID in all capital letters. The ID is capital letters. And then you select OK and close your Mail Preferences. Now when you look at all of your email messages, along with who they're from, the subject, and who the message was to, you'll also see a long, gloppy-looking message ID. The format of the message ID is interesting. It's enclosed in angle brackets, and it starts with a lot of numerical digits separated by dots. Then it's got an @ symbol in the middle, and it ends with the domain that sent it. In my example, I ordered something from IKEA. It was at ikea.com was at the end of this long gloppy message ID. This unique identifier is what we'll be using to link to an email. Luckily, we don't have to understand very much about it at all. While this message ID has the information we need, in order to actually use this crazy-looking message ID, we need to reformat it a bit just to make it a deep link. So you know how web URLs start with https://? Well, the format of a deep link has to start with message://. All right, so far, not too scary. The next part's a little weirder. Certain symbols can't be understood by computers, so we have what are called ASCII codes for non-printable characters. Now, the reason I bring up this arcane topic is that we need to replace the angle brackets in our message ID with the ASCII codes for them to be able to be recognized in the deep link. The left angle bracket, the one that looks like a less than symbol, will be replaced with %3C, and the right angle bracket looks like a greater than symbol. That's going to be replaced with %3E. So now our final format for the deep link is message : %3C, then that long glop, and then it ends with %3E. I got to wonder how many people stopped listening right when I got to the ASCII code for non-printable characters part. Anyway, if you're still with me, hang in there because you're not going to have to do any of this by hand. I played with this a bit and I realized I was never going to remember the ASCII codes and the formatting of message : //. So I turned to one of my favorite tools for help, Text Expander. Text Expander at its most basic will spit out a snippet of text when you type the abbreviation you assigned for it, but it can do a lot more than that. One of the things it can do is embed your clipboard in the snippet that it spits out, and we're going to use that feature to create our deep link automatically. In Text Expander, I simply typed in message : // I'm sorry. Let me say it again. I always mix up ampersand and percent. In text, no, I'm going to redo that. In text, my voice wasn't all croaky still. Yes, save. In Text Expander, I simply typed in message : / %3C. That takes care of the front part. Then I clicked the little keyboard symbol that brings up keyboard macros, and I selected the clipboard, and I followed that with %3E. Now, I managed to make that sound super complicated, but it took maybe 30 seconds to accomplish, maybe 15. I chose the letters MSG : to trigger my snippet of text, and I was ready to go. All of the heavy lifting is over now. To use my fancy new Text Expander snippet to deep link to an email, the process is simple. In the email to which I want to link, I copy the message ID without the angle brackets. I switch to wherever I need to put the deep link. In my example, this would be my to-do list. I type my abbreviation, and the deep link splats out onto the open text field. It's ugly as sin, as my father would say, but it's a real link, and when I click it, mail launches directly to the order email from IKEA. Mission accomplished, and all I need to remember is my Text Expander abbreviation. Now, remember, this whole thing doesn't have anything to do with Microsoft To Do. That's just one of the places I use it. I got an email from someone telling me they wanted to meet and included a lot of important information in the email. I copied the message ID from the email, and then I used my Text Expander abbreviation to paste it as a deep link into a calendar event. Unlike To Do, when you do this in Apple's calendar app, it converts that gloppy message : / stuff into show in mail ... which looks great and is much less confusing. So the link is just show in mail. You click that, boom, you've got the email comes up. Well, now that I had that working, I was finding a lot of places where it's handy to drop in a link to an email so I can connect information together and not have to go hunting for it later. I use this trick often, but not quite often enough to remember whether or not I'm supposed to copy the angle brackets. I'm not sure why this works, but if you do copy the angle brackets, they just get ignored and the deep link still works. Now, at least some of you are yelling into your devices that I could have used Keyboard Maestro for this instead of Text Expander, and you'd be absolutely correct. I'm not as good at Keyboard Maestro yet as I am with Text Expander, but I eventually got it to work. Remember, we start with the message ID copied into the clipboard, so the steps I put into Keyboard Maestro are set variable message ID to the system clipboard, prepend the variable message ID with message : / %3C, append the variable message ID with %3E, and then set the system clipboard to the variable message ID, and then paste. That sounds complicated, but it's really just a couple of steps. Now, just to keep it as much like the Text Expander snippet as possible, I set the Keyboard Maestro trigger to be a text string, and in this case, I chose mid : I forget why it was mid. Oh, message ID, that's what it was for, mid : So Keyboard Maestro doesn't work quite the same as Text Expander. After I typed the trigger and it pasted in my newly formed deep link, the trigger text string was still there in my way. Luckily, Keyboard Maestro was offering automatically to simulate deleting the characters of the trigger before executing, which made my macro work perfectly. Now I can select the message ID from mail, type my text string, and the deep link is pasted wherever I want it. Now, I bet there's a more elegant way to write the macro in Keyboard Maestro, and I'm sure Mike Price will write an improved version when he hears how I did it. It'll be awesome and filled with funny comments too. But you know what? My method does work, so I'm happy. I'm sure at least 90% of you think I'm nuts that this is a time saver and it's too nerdy for you, but I use it pretty often and I love the efficiency of it. Now that I've spoon-fed it to you with screenshots using 2 different tools, why not give it a try? The worst thing that can happen is that you love it. By the way, after I finished this, I sent out the blog post about this. Mike Price did create another way to do it, and he posted that in our Slack. And also, Tim McCoy has been doing some work and posting on the blog post in the comments. He has written out all of his code. He did it in AppleScript and put it inside Automator, and he gave all of his code to all of you if you'd like to go get it there. So now you have 3 or 4 different ways to do it, and I think it's really cool. So you should try it. Okay, you came off mute way too early, Steve. There you are. You're off mute, right?
Did that record properly?
Oh, did you see it moving in and out?
Yeah,
I accidentally started scrolling, and it did. It just
okay,
did
so
that.
you got all that recording that you just did.
Yeah, it looks too short.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
Just play
trying
back
to scroll.
the ending. Just want to hear that.
Did create another way to do it, and he posted that in our Slack, and also.
We're good.
So I was trying to do a 2-fingered scroll over in Mars Edit, and it, I had this in focus, so it did this.
Got it.
See it? Whee!
Yep, gotcha.
All right.
Okay,
You scared me when you came in off. You came off of mute.
Did I? Too soon.
Yeah, I was hearing you when I was still recording.
Too soon. Too soon.
Too soon. All right, here we go. Muting Steve. Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. That's distracting to me that it's not the way I normally see it. Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Don't forget to send in your dumb questions. Everything is fiddly recordings, comments, and suggestions, and maybe, hey, even your solution to the deep link problem. And you can do that by emailing me at allison@podfeet.com. You can follow me on Twitter at podfeet. Remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com. Do you want to... Dang it. I wish I could remember names. Jonathan. Do you want to be a peach like Jonathan? Go to podfeet.com/Patreon. If you'd rather do a one-time donation, you could do it at podfeet.com/PayPal. If you want to join the fun of the conversation, like Mike Price did in working on this deep link thing over in Slack, you can go to podfeet.com/Slack. If you prefer Facebook, we have a Facebook group as well at podfeet.com/Facebook. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. There we go.
It's a wrap.
Wait, Steve, you weren't too soon. She just ran long. All right, it is 5:58.
Boy,
so I think
that
it's
was
probably time.
well timed.
I'm just amazing, aren't I?
Yes.
It's almost like I've been doing this for a while. All right, everybody. It was fun having you. Thank you for coming. What?
Link check?
Oh, chapter mark. Yep. 1. I hate the way this scrolls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yep, that's what I get. We're good.
Thanks for coming, Lindsay. Thanks for coming, everybody. Goodbye, Rose. Mwah. Goodbye.
Have a great week, everybody. Enjoy.
Enjoy it.